Almost exactly a year ago, I made a video about how the world of Pantheon Rise of the Fallen is laid out and the various ways that we as players will be able to travel around it. And there was a lot of good information in that, but of course this is a full-scale MMORPG, so there is a lot more to it. And actually, since that video came out, some new interesting details have been released by the Visionary Realms developers. So let's revisit that and see if we can dig even deeper into the world of Terminus.
This is BazgrimTV. Learn, laugh, level up.
Game development can be notoriously turbulent because, by its very nature, it involves frequent iteration, evolution, and refinement of ideas. And when that process is visible to the public, as is the case with crowdfunded games like Pantheon, it can be difficult for us on the outside to keep up with it all. So my goal with this channel is to keep you as educated as possible about Pantheon and its development process. So occasionally that will mean going back and updating or expanding our knowledge base on certain topics. And that's what we're going to be doing today in this video, talking about the size and scale of the world, fast travel options, abilities and items that aid exploration, and more. So if you want to be able to stay on top of the game's progress, just gently tap that subscribe button now so that you never miss any of my videos. One thing I probably should have mentioned in the first video about the world of Pantheon is something that is not news, and in fact very fundamental to how the world of Terminus is being built. Yet, there still may be some people who are not aware of this because, by most modern MMO standards, it's actually pretty unconventional, and that is the fact that this is an open world game, meaning everyone on a particular server will be sharing the same zones. There will be little to no instancing. So, for example, the game will not create a copy of a dungeon just for your group anytime you want. According to the FAQ, if there are any instances, they'll just be for very specific storytelling situations, where preventing other players from interfering is essential to the story that they're trying to tell. But again, that would be kept to a minimum because that social aspect of being able to help strangers, and also the fact that desirable items remain valuable by not having an unlimited supply, are all key parts of the Pantheon experience. Now, of course, there are a lot of very positive implications and very negative implications for this, and you're probably already listing them all off in your head, but that's probably better suited for a separate video because it's just a very deep and debatable topic, and the devs do have some ideas for handling this a bit differently than in other games to at least mitigate the negative interactions. But anyway, because the open world design affects many aspects of the game, it's important that we keep this in mind as we continue to discuss world size and travel. Since this is an open world game, it is theoretically possible to calculate how large the area of the world actually is. And while we may not be able to get exact numbers right now, creative director Chris Joppa Perkins has given us a rough estimate to get a sense of scale. Quote, right now, it would take about 20 minutes to run from Thronefast to Fairthale on a dead straight path without run speed buffs, end quote. In other words, this is as the crow flies. That doesn't take into account all the walls, obstacles, and other interruptions you'll inevitably encounter when you're actually in it, which of course significantly increases the amount of time it would take you to get from point A to point B. This atlas isn't necessarily exactly to scale, and it also doesn't show the third continent of Whitethaw, which will be playable at launch. But I think it's important that we do our best to visualize how big the world will be. Let's say you miraculously found a bug that allows you to run through all walls and terrain and not even aggro anything. Then turn on auto run for 20 minutes. And actually think about how long 20 minutes is. Even after doing that, you still will have spanned probably less than a third of the playable area in the game. Hopefully that gives you a better idea of just how much there will be to explore and how long it will take you to actually do that when you factor in all those obstacles along the way. And that's important for a game that aims to keep you intrigued for a lot longer than just a month or two.
So the best way to coin what we're going for with the scale and flow of Pantheon's game world and the travel within it is that it all serves to create a sense of arrival. That's another way to think about kind of what we were hearing with in some of the feedback earlier on, is that if the world is too small, if the areas within the world are too small, if there's not enough distance to travel between point A and point B, that sense of arrival is going to be missing. That sense of seeing things off in the distance, or that sense of feeling like I've traveled a long way to get here, and so actually getting here feels really important.
Anyone who's been playing MMOs for long enough knows that even the biggest worlds will feel very small if players are given too many options for fast travel. You know how I said that obstacles and interruptions significantly increase the amount of time that it takes to get from point A to point B? Well, flying mounts, aka as the crow flies, would completely remove that element. And as of a year ago, flying mounts were still considered a maybe for the development plans in Pantheon. But since then, Joppa has drawn a hard line on his stance about flying mounts. Quote, "As long as I'm here, Pantheon will never have flying mounts," end quote. It doesn't get much more clear than that. But there are, of course, a lot of other forms of fast travel that don't always get so out of control. For example, Joppa also provided an update on how the wizard and druid teleports will work. Quote, "When a wizard approaches a gateway for the first time, they will be able to discover it. Part of that process includes speaking with the NPC gatewalker who oversees that portal. Whether through conversation or quest, the wizard will gain access to that gateway as part of their network. Every gateway they discover in this manner will become part of their ever-increasing network of gateways. Druids will encounter an identical process, utilizing wandering stones. Our plan is for the wandering stones and gateways to become increasingly available to druids and wizards as part of a growing interconnected network. Wizards and druids will then be able to access all of their discovered portal locations through a UI window. At higher levels, druids and wizards will be able to teleport themselves to the primary gateway or wandering stone in order to access the network more quickly. In addition, they'll eventually be able to bring their group members with them through the gateway/wandering stone network," end quote. In part 1 of this video, I mentioned how the climbing system will be another important method of getting around the world. And as you can see by this footage, the climbing system has come a long way in the past year. And I also mentioned that rogues will have abilities such as length of rope to help their team members climb difficult surfaces. But this is another case where Joppa has since provided more detail on how that will actually work.
The length of rope is going to allow a rogue to take that advantage that they have and then extend that to their group. And the rogue rope is going to be a channeled ability. It's going to be, I guess you would refer to as like an indefinite channeled, where once you get into the length of rope state, you're going to drop it down. It's fun to talk about this because it's something that Kyle's kind of right on it's fun to, it's fun. But you're going to get into that kind of state where you've lowered the rope. It's a length of rope. And while you channel that, you can channel it indefinitely because you might have 6 people that need to climb up it. Then they can climb, and it's kind of it's not like an infinite length. You can't stand at 200 meters off the ground and just drop this thing all the way down, but it will be improvable. So the length of rope is not static; it'll actually get better, and that's going to be fun to see eventually. But
yeah, nice.
While you channel it, people can climb it, and if you take damage, though, then your group's going to fall.
The rope should snap.
If you stop channeling the ability, the people on the rope are going to fall. So
it's like the new evac for wizards. Just drop people instead.
So trust your rogues.
But I should point out that exploration abilities in Pantheon go far beyond just rope. Several other classes will have unique tools that they can bring to the party to help access areas that they might not be able to otherwise. This isn't an exhaustive list, but for example, some of the abilities we know about so far are the Druid's Vine-Woven Bridge, which allows people to cross a wide gap. Warriors have Battering Ram, which uses their strength to open up access to certain areas that are blocked off. Summoners have Summon Ladder to help scale walls, and also Summon Raft, which makes traveling by water easier for a limited time. And I would also include the Paladin's Brilliant Aegis, which says, quote, "This ability can also serve as a brief light source in atmospheres of supernatural darkness," end quote. Light sources aid travel in a different sense, but don't underestimate the importance of visibility when traveling through Terminus. Or really anywhere, because, well, it's hard to go somewhere if you can't see where you're going. If you watch the developer gameplay streams, you'll notice that there's almost always some people carrying torches or other light sources.
Will weapons or armor have light sources?
Yes, they will.
Oh, look at Eridoon right there. You can see him.
Yeah, actually got, yeah.
You can actually, if you look at Eridoon's breastplate, you can see. Oh, and you can see the reflection of Zinx's item or just glow on Eridoon's chest plate. That's pretty crazy.
In the glow of his swords on my little mask there.
Oh yeah, that's right. Look at that. Yep.
But as the description of Brilliant Aegis suggests, not all darkness is the same, and those torches won't always be sufficient. One of the game's tenets is that, quote, "player versus environment should involve more than NPCs," end quote. That way, you're not only preparing for what you're going to be fighting, but also how to get there. And that makes it feel more like you're exploring a real world. I mentioned in part 1 how the climate system will play a major role in that, but the climate system only accounts for natural obstacles, like heat, cold, wind, etc. The flip side of that is the atmosphere system, which accounts for the supernatural obstacles.
Whereas atmospheres are more of your unnatural phenomenon, things that you would find in a fantasy world. And so darkness is one, what you would think of as almost supernatural darkness, or darkness that goes beyond the natural. Whether we would have entire environments, like whole zones or areas like that, I don't know, but certainly there will be pockets where you will enter an atmosphere of complete blackness, and it may be the torch and the range of the torch lighting is all you have. It could be that torches are even rendered ineffective in those environments, and so you're going to be focused more on sound cues or other things that maybe aren't quite ready to share yet. So yes, darkness, lighting, those things will play a major role.
But if you don't have a paladin in your group, there are artifacts you can find, such as the Crest of Illumination, which will counter the effects of the darkness atmosphere. However, that isn't the only artifact that you might need in your travels. For example, the Skyhold Grappler can, quote, "assist in advanced terrain traversement," and the Frenetic Floor is a different atmosphere which requires special boots to walk across. Those are just a few ways that atmospheres may make your journeys more interesting, to say the least. And I plan to make a separate video to explain the atmosphere system more thoroughly. But that's it for this video. As a quick recap, we covered the size and scale of an open world, fast travel, including flying mounts and teleports, and some examples of items and abilities that make getting around on foot a little bit easier. I hope you learned something from all this, and I hope to see you in Terminus.